Imagine being a child forced to grow up surrounded by fear, violence, and uncertainty. No school, no safety, no future. Now imagine that same child becoming a target for terrorist recruitment. Across parts of northern Nigeria, thousands of children have grown up in communities affected by Boko Haram and insurgency. And while headlines often focus on attacks and military operations, there is another tragedy happening quietly in the background: the destruction of childhood itself. Today, we explore why Boko Haram recruits children, the devastating human cost behind it, and what must be done to stop another generation from being lost to conflict. Children are among the most vulnerable people in conflict zones. Many communities affected by insurgency struggle with poverty, displacement, lack of education, food insecurity, weak local protection systems. In these conditions, children can become easy targets for manipulation and recruitment. Some are promised food money, protection, a sense of belonging. Others are forced into situations they never chose. This is not simply about violence. It is about exploiting vulnerability. When terrorism affects children, the damage goes far beyond the present moment. Thousands of young people in northern Nigeria have had their education interrupted by conflict. Schools have been destroyed, families displaced, communities uprooted. Many children grow up without stability, without access to proper healthcare, without psychological support after traumatic experiences. The emotional scars can last for years. A child exposed to violence at a young age may struggle with fear, trauma, and hopelessness long after the conflict ends. One of the greatest dangers is the cycle conflict creates. When communities remain unsafe for years, children lose opportunities, families lose livelihoods, trust in institutions weakens over time, desperation grows. And where there is desperation, extremist groups attempt to exploit it. This is why security experts often say that terrorism cannot be solved by military action alone. Because if the conditions that fuel vulnerability remain unchanged, recruitment risks continue. The effects are visible across many affected communities: empty schools, overcrowded displacement camps, rising unemployment among youth families separated by violence. Entire generations risk growing up in instability. And when children lose hope in the future, communities become more fragile and insecurity becomes harder to end. Stopping recruitment requires more than fighting on the battlefield. Experts and humanitarian organizations continue to stress the importance of expanding access to education, supporting displaced families, rebuilding local economies, improving child protection systems, strengthening community trust and security. Creating safe schools, stable livelihoods, and opportunities for young people can reduce the conditions that extremist groups exploit. Communities also play a critical role. Religious leaders, parents, teachers, local organizations. The true tragedy of terrorism is not only the lives lost today, it is the future that may never be recovered. Every child pulled away from education, safety, and opportunity represents a loss not just for one family, but for an entire society. Northern Nigeria's future depends on whether the next generation grows up with fear or with hope. Why does Boko Haram recruit children? Because conflict creates vulnerability, and vulnerability becomes an opportunity for exploitation. The untold human cost is not only measured in attacks or casualty figures. It is measured in stolen childhoods, broken families, and communities struggling to rebuild. Ending terrorism means protecting the next generation before they become trapped in the cycle of conflict. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share to encourage the government in the fight against terrorism.